Welcome to Sermons Pastor Can't Teach by philosopher Jangabu Sajja.
In this program, we will dissect scriptures from the Bible and cross-reference them with historical facts. The listener is encouraged to research all things presented for themselves.
Lord have mercy. Joe.
I remember we went to Tennessee, then we came home. Mad messages was on my phone. Bitch named Simone, screaming, she fiending for the semen. Me being the man that I am, took her to her condo, pronto, half Indian. I called the Tonto, roll a cron in the dark pronto. Few puffs, I
Tell you, what you need to express is your mind to the Lord.
I just want to ask you, why do you think you are God?
I don't think I'm God. I ain't saying I think I believe. I know, and if you study the words, you study my book, you will know I'm me too.
You didn't create the heaven and the earth, baby.
But I did. I'm that motherfucker. You know me, don't you?
Hell no, I don't want you.
You don't know me? That's shame on your goddamn ass then. Shit, I'm the motherfucker. Give a fuck what you believe in. Believe in you some goddamn Ku Klux Klan members, don't you?
Hello?
How about you, Tanya? What's on your feeble ass mind?
I want to know, why do you curse and talk like that if you're
I'm God. Whoever told you how God talked probably was a goddamn Ku Klux Klan member. I'm God, ain't a goddamn law on the face of earth against me. Gonna gaffle me up. Bitch, I give a fuck what you're thinking. Fuck your thoughts. I'm God, and bitch, you not.
By watching this short video, you will be able to prove to yourself that the Bible is repulsive. The Bible is so repulsive that it has no place in a modern civilized society. Example 1. The vast majority of Americans believe that God exists, that Jesus is his son, and that God himself gave us the Bible and the Ten Commandments. In fact, Supreme Court Justice Scalia has said that 99% of Americans believe in the Ten Commandments. He has also said, what the commandments stand for is the direction of human affairs by God. If 99% of Americans believe in the Ten Commandments, then how can the Bible be repulsive? It's because they've never actually read the Bible. Let's take the fourth commandment as an example. It says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. This sounds simple enough. God has commanded that no one will work on the Sabbath day. But let's look at reality in America. Walmart is open on the Sabbath, and so is Target. Best Buy is open on the Sabbath, and so is Circuit City. Home Depot is open on the Sabbath, and so is Lowe's. In fact, millions of businesses in America have employees working on the Sabbath. Even Family Christian Stores has employees working on the Sabbath. So this is a clear-cut situation. God has told us not to work, yet we work. What should we do with everyone who breaks the fourth commandment? Here's the fascinating thing. In the Bible's book of Exodus, the same book that contains the Ten Commandments, the Bible tells us what we should do with everyone who breaks the fourth commandment. For 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day must be put to death. That's right. The Bible demands the death penalty for tens of millions of Americans. Should we line these tens of millions of Americans up and shoot them? Should we put them in giant gas chambers? I think we can all agree that the thought of killing tens of millions of innocent Americans is repulsive. It is repulsive. And make no mistake about it, the Bible really means what it says. It fully intends to be this repulsive. In Isaiah 40, verse 8, the Bible says, "The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever." The Bible says the same thing in 1 Peter 1, verse 24 and 25. And in Psalms 19, verse 7, the Bible says, "The law of the Lord is perfect." Perfect. Since the laws of the Bible are perfect, they should never change. Do you believe that we should kill millions of innocent people because they work on the Sabbath? If not, do you want a book this repulsive to be quoted in public? Do you want it read to children? Do you want it used in our courts of law? Example 2. The Bible wants us to kill most Americans. For example, the first commandment says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." What are we supposed to do with everyone who doesn't believe in God? We are supposed to kill them. Deuteronomy chapter 17 says, "Take the man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death." Deuteronomy chapter 13 says that if a town doesn't believe in God, you must attack that town and completely destroy all its inhabitants, as well as all the livestock. And Leviticus chapter 24 says, "Anyone who blasphemes the name of the Lord must be put to death. The entire assembly must stone him." The Bible is extremely clear on this. We must kill everyone who does not believe in God. Now, if you are a thoughtful, intelligent person, you're starting to realize something. The law of the Lord is not perfect. It is repulsive. Example 3 is really simple. All who curse their father or mother must be put to death. So is example 4. If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress must be put to death. And so is example 5. If a man lies with a man as one lies with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. They must be put to death. According to the Bible, we need to kill tens of millions of innocent Americans. Plain and simple, this is repulsive. The idea that people would walk around carrying a book that demands the death of tens of millions of innocent people is repulsive. Here's another example of the Bible's idiocy. Rebellious teenagers should all be killed as well. Here's what the Bible says. If someone has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey his father and mother, who does not heed them when they discipline him, then his father and mother shall say to the elders of his town, "This son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey us. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of the town shall stone him to death." Example 7 comes straight from Jesus. In Matthew 18, verses 7 through 9, Jesus says, "If your hand or your foot causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or crippled than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and to be thrown into eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away." This passage is repulsive on at least 3 different levels, but let's focus on the first one. Jesus is an idiot. Cutting off your hand or gouging out an eye accomplishes nothing. If you are having a problem with unproductive behaviors, what you need to do is talk with a counselor or see a therapist. Self-amputation is absurd and repulsive. Example 8. The Bible's absolute sexism is well known and it is repulsive. Here are 2 examples. Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home, for it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church. Let a woman learn in silence with all submissiveness. I permit no woman to teach or to have authority over men. She is to keep silent. We can find dozens of verses that are just as sexist throughout the Bible. The Bible's sexism is both ridiculous and repulsive. Example 9. The Bible fully supports slavery. In fact, the Bible has been used in many cases, including the American Civil War, as an authoritative justification of slavery. Here are 3 examples. Your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. From them you may buy slaves. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You can will them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life. Now look at this. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished. But he is not to be punished if the slave gets up after a day or 2, since the slave is his property. In the New Testament we find this. Bid slaves to be submissive to their masters and to give satisfaction in every respect. They are not to be refractory nor to pilfer, but to show entire and true fidelity. As you can see, the Bible is extremely clear on this. Buying and selling slaves is fine. Beating slaves is fine. Slaves are to show entire and true fidelity. If you are a normal, intelligent person, you are extremely clear on something else. The entire idea of slavery is repulsive. Example 10. The Bible is riddled with repulsion. Take, for example, this verse. Anyone who is captured will be run through with a sword. Their little children will be dashed to death right before their eyes. Or what about this? They shall fall by the sword. Their little ones shall be dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women ripped open. Or this. Kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has known man by lying with him. But all the young girls who have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. You have probably gotten the picture by now. The Bible is repulsive. You have seen 10 graphic examples of repulsion in this short video. You can find hundreds of verses like these throughout the Old and New Testaments. We currently use the Bible throughout American society. We do that in large part because most Americans have never read the Bible and have no idea how disgusting it is. We read from this book at weddings and funerals. We force people to put their hands on this book in court. We find copies of the Bible in nearly every hotel room in America. But now you know the truth. The Bible demands that we kill everyone who works on the Sabbath. The Bible commands us to kill teenagers who drink too much. The Bible empowers us to enslave people of other nations. The Bible commands that we oppress women and kill people who happen to be homosexual. A book this repulsive has no place in our society. It is time for the thoughtful, intelligent people of this nation to acknowledge this simple fact and then act on it.
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
According to their own captain's logs of the slave ships, the slaves died so quickly and the slaves died so numerously on the slave ships that the sharks in the Atlantic Ocean stopped foraging for food in the wider ocean and would just follow the slave ship.
You can't handle the truth!
We're back.
If you are a Christian, you are about to begin a fascinating journey. In the next 10 minutes, it will become clear to you that your belief in God is delusional. The problem is that your delusion, combined with the delusion of billions of other religious people like you, is hurting us as a species. It does not matter if you are a fundamentalist Christian, a moderate Christian, or a casual Christian. Your delusion is hurting us. The goal of this short video is to help you look in a mirror and understand the delusion of Christianity. Once you can see what is going on, the hope is that you will be able to start healing your delusion. With each healing, we make our world a better place. How do we know that Christians are delusional? In this short video, we will look at the Mormons, the Muslims, and the Christians together, and it will be very easy for you to see the delusion of religion. Let's start with the Mormons. A quick story can help you to understand the kind of delusion that we are talking about. One night, Joe was sitting in his room praying to God. Suddenly, his room became exceedingly bright. An angel appears. The angel tells Joe that there is a set of ancient golden plates buried in the side of a hill in New York. The plates come with 2 special stones that help Joe to translate them. Once Joe finishes translating, the angel takes the plates and they are never seen again. The book translated from the plates tells of amazing things. An entire civilization of Jewish people living here in North America 2,000 years ago. These people have things like huge cities and huge wars where millions of soldiers die. And the resurrected Jesus came and visited these people. This is an amazing story, isn't it? And Joe swears it's absolutely true. Now here's the question. Do you believe Joe's story? If you are a normal, intelligent person, you do not believe this story. Of course you don't. But why not? Why is it so obvious to you that this story is a fairy tale? First of all, you look at the evidence. There were not millions of Jewish people living in North America 2,000 years ago building cities and waging wars. How do you know that? Because there's absolutely no evidence for it. There are no ruins of the cities. There are no battlefields where millions of people fought and died. It is obvious that the book is lying. Second, you compare Joe's story to any other fairy tale. This story talks about the magical angel, the magical golden plates, the magical seer stones, the magical disappearance of the plates. These things are all imaginary as Jack's magical beanstalk. The entire story is make-believe and we all know it. Now here is the fascinating thing. Millions of people actually do believe Joe's story. Those millions of people are members of the Mormon Church. Their holy book is the Book of Mormon, the book that Joe supposedly translated from the plates. You see, millions of Mormons live inside a Mormon bubble of delusion, and to them, this story is completely and absolutely true. The dictionary defines delusion as a fixed false belief that is resistant to reason or confrontation with actual fact. That definition fits Mormons perfectly. Mormons are delusional. We can all agree on this. But if you ever meet a Mormon and ask him about this story, he can spend hours talking to you about it. He has 1,000 rationalizations. He can answer every question you have. To a Mormon, Joe's story is totally, absolutely, completely true. What a Mormon sees as indisputable truth, every normal person sees as utter delusion. There is no reason to sugarcoat things. Mormons are entirely delusional, and everyone who stands outside the Mormon bubble of delusion knows it. Now let's look at the Muslim religion. For Muslims, the story starts with a man named Muhammad sitting in a cave. He sees a bright flash of light, just like Joe did. There is also a talking angel. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The angel speaks to Muhammad for 11 years, and then one day the angel brings Muhammad a magical horse. Muhammad mounts the horse and it takes him to heaven. Then the horse brings Muhammad back to earth. Everything that the angel told Muhammad was recorded by scribes and became the book that we know today as the Quran. Now here's the question. Do you believe this story? Do you believe that an angel dictated the Quran to Muhammad? Do you believe that Muhammad rode a magical horse to heaven? Of course not. This story is just as delusional as the Mormon story. The Muslim bubble of delusion is exactly like the Mormon bubble. To the people inside the Muslim bubble, this fairy tale story is completely, absolutely, totally true. But for everyone standing outside the Muslim bubble, we see with total clarity that the Muslims are delusional. It is obvious that this is a fairy tale. You and I both know, for example, that magical flying horses are just as imaginary as Santa's flying reindeer. So now we come to the Christian bubble. How do we know that Christians are delusional? Because the Christian story is just like the stories of the Mormons and the Muslims. In the Christian fairy tale, a magical ghost inseminates a woman named Mary. She gives birth to a magical son named Jesus. A magical star leads people to the baby. Jesus performs many magical miracles which happen to leave behind no evidence whatsoever. Jesus dies, but 3 days later he is magically resurrected. He magically appears to many people to prove his resurrection, but then magically he ascends into heaven, never to be seen again. All of this magic, along with the remarkable lack of evidence, makes it obvious. This is a fairy tale, just like the story of Jack's magical beanstalk. Here is the thing that I would like to help you understand. The 4 billion people who are not Christians look at the Christian story in exactly the same way that you look at the Mormon story and the Muslim story. In other words, there are 4 billion people who stand outside the Christian bubble and they can see reality clearly. The fact is, the Christian story is an imaginary fairy tale. If you are a Christian, you should now be able to see what is happening. As a Christian, you completely reject the Mormon and the Muslim stories. Why? Because they are fairy tales and everyone knows it. You know that every other religion is delusion. Now simply recognize the obvious. The Christian religion is exactly the same. All the people inside the Christian bubble are just as delusional. Christians are delusional. Every rational person can see that. You should also be able to see that there is only one sane position for an intelligent person to take in this diagram. By standing outside of all of these religious bubbles, you free yourself from delusion. Why do you need to heal your delusion? Because all of these religious bubbles harm us as a species. A planet full of delusional people is not healthy. Just look at how Christianity skews your thinking. The delusion of Christianity makes you outrageously superstitious. Chances are you believe in the power of prayer, even though every valid scientific study shows that prayer has absolutely no effect. The belief in prayer is complete superstition. The delusion of Christianity radically devalues human life. We routinely send soldiers into battle with the message that it's okay to die because once you die you get to go to heaven. In reality, heaven is completely imaginary. The belief in heaven is delusional. The delusion of Christianity replaces rational thought with dangerous mythology. For example, 60% of adults in America believe that Jesus will return and destroy our planet. Myths like these grossly skew your thinking about the future of our species. They also slow scientific progress. The list goes on and on. The delusion of Christianity forces you to discard rational thought in many parts of your life. Your irrationality hurts us all. My goal here is not to criticize you for your religious beliefs, but instead to help you recover from your delusion. The solution is straightforward. Simply think about your delusion and it will fall like a house of cards. Thinking is the solution. If you will turn on your brain, the depth of your delusion will become obvious to you, and you will be able to start down the path to recovery. You can begin your healing journey right now. For example, ask yourself, why is it that every scientific study shows that prayer is a superstition? Why is it that you, as a rational human being, would believe in a completely imaginary place like heaven? Why would you believe in a being named God for whom there is absolutely no empirical evidence? Think rationally about your religion and you will quickly see how delusional it is. With luck, the bubble of delusion that surrounds you will burst and you will become a normal, healthy human being. Would you like to learn more? Please visit whywon'tgodhealamputees.com.
Were you aware that if convicted, they might be freed in only 10 years?
Yes, sir. I heard people say that. Yes, sir.
Do you think men who kidnap a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Do you think 2 men who rape a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Do you think 2 men who hang a child should be free in 10 years?
No, sir.
Well, what do you think should happen to them? What would be a fair sentence?
Objection,
do you think
Your
they
Honor.
deserve to die, Mr.
Your Honor.
Henry? Answer the question.
Carly.
Negro unable to stand on his own 2 feet. He has no self-confidence. He has no proud confidence in his own race. Because the white man destroyed your and my past, destroyed our knowledge of our culture. And by having destroyed it, now we don't know we have any achievements, any accomplishment. And as long as you can be convinced that you never did anything, you can never do anything.
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
And now, the critical analysis. Here is this season's recap. In episode 1, Abraham was a wandering broke dude who clearly pimped out his wife and half-sister for African silver and gold and goods. Pimping Abraham, who left no records and had no gravesite. In episode 2, Moses was supposedly raised by the Egyptians, a stone-cold murderer. The Bible says he was learned in all the ways of the Egyptians, which would explain why he plagiarized the moral code of Egypt and made it into the 10 Commandments. In episode 3, we find proof that JC forgot to come back. JC also encourages genocide to his believers by commanding them to love their enemies. JC, the ghost-playing scam. In episode 4, we find proof that every single character in the Bible never existed, because the father of the Hebrews, pimping Abraham, never existed. Astonishing. And in the season finale, we have seen how repulsive some verses are in the Bible and how believers can be considered delusional. When will we face the truth that the Bible is a book of allegory? None of the characters or events actually took place. No group of people are God's special people. We must begin to look at these uncomfortable verses and analyze them for what they are. Tools for control and fear made by men for the accumulation of power. Tune in next season for more of Sermons Pastor Can't Teach.